tuning into Halton News. It's Tuesday, July 14th, and I'm Jessica Kading. Today's COVID-19 numbers released by Halton Region Public Health include 43 active cases in the region. The biggest spike took place in Burlington, adding 3 more cases since yesterday. In Halton Hills, their numbers were reduced by 1. Currently, Halton Region sits at 812 recoveries. Wellington-Halton Hills MP Michael Chong is calling on the government to provide more insight as to how our country is going to get out of the projected deficit. Last week, the federal government announced a $343 billion deficit for this year, which would be the largest in Canadian history. Wellington-Halton Hills MP Michael Chong had this to say.
I don't fault them for spending the literally hundreds of billions of dollars to help Canadians out in need in the last several months, and in the hundreds of billions that they will be spending in the next year to help those Canadians dispossessed and by the pandemic. I think that's what governments need to do. We need to look out for people who have fallen between the cracks and for people who've lost their jobs in situations like the one we're in. What I do fault them for is the tens of billions of dollars they racked up in deficits and debt before the pandemic hit. We went through one of the longest and biggest booms in the Canadian economy in the last several years. It was one of the largest post-war expansions. In fact, I think it was the single largest post-World War II economic expansion in Canadian history. Unemployment was at a 40-year low. And despite all that, the government insisted on spending much more than they had and borrowing money to do it. So we went into this pandemic, in my view, ill-prepared to take on these levels of debt. So that's one thing I fault them for. The second thing I fault them for is for them not to come forward at this point with a broad roadmap of how we get out of this economic downturn. They've had 4 months now to give us an idea of what happens in the next 12 to 24 months in order to get ourselves out of this mess. Because on the current predictions by the OECD, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, which is based out of Paris and funded by leading economies in the world, and from predictions from the International Monetary Fund, we are looking at an 8% economic contraction this year and a 4% rebound next year, which means that we will finish 2021 4% behind where we were at the beginning of this year. And so if you look forward, we are not going to get out of this economic downturn for 3 or more years, possibly 4 or 5 years. And the government needs to come forward with a roadmap for economic recovery because of the serious situation we find ourselves in. I think it's high time they did that. I'm disappointed they didn't provide that as they normally would in the fiscal and economic update they provided.
For the second time this year, Burlington North Oakville MP Pam Damoff was host to all levels of government, federal, provincial, and municipal, to discuss how to address the ongoing problem of youth vaping. Not only have there been problematic shops found in contravention of legislation in both Oakville and Burlington, but more troubling is the advertising directed directly at youth. For more, I'll turn it over to MP Damoff.
Basically, we've come together twice now, in January and in June, and we all sort of took some things away with us to take to our respective levels of government, and we are seeing some movement on it, Jessica. So federally, as of July 1st, there's some new regulations that have come in terms of nicotine content and concentration in the health warning that has to be displayed on packaging, as well as a list of ingredients so that people can make the decision based on what's in the vape product. And then on August the 7th, federally, vape ads will be prohibited where they'll be seen or heard by youth. So I think you and I talked about this before when I went into a Raptors game last year. Every square inch of Union Station was wrapped for vape products. As of August the 7th, that won't be allowed. So a number of different things And retailers in September will be prohibited from displaying vape at point of sale. We know there's more to do, and some of it falls within provincial jurisdiction. And I was really pleased with how far the provincial government is moving. But we know there's still more to do, and we all came away with some action that we need to take.
MP Damoff is also Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Indigenous Services, and as highlighted in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, as well as the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls Call to Action, is that there's an overrepresentation of Indigenous children in Children and Family Services in Canada. I spoke with MP Damoff about this today as well.
The number of Indigenous children in foster care is actually higher than at any time, higher than the number of kids in residential schools or that were taken during the 60s scoop. So we know it's a problem. During the last Parliament, we passed Bill C-92, which will transfer decision-making over to Indigenous peoples themselves. So last week I was up in Ottawa with Minister Mark Miller and Perry Bellegarde, the Grand Chief of the Assembly of First Nations, for a signing of a protocol agreement to start that transfer of responsibility for child services over to the Assembly of First Nations. It's a problem because foster care, we know, is a pipeline into the prison system, and we need to be investing in Indigenous youth, and wherever possible and wherever safe, trying to keep them in their communities and make sure that they remain connected to their culture and their families.
While some parts of the province are moving to Stage 3, we remain in Stage 2 for now, and opinions are incredibly divided about whether we're moving too fast or too slow. This next segment is for those of you who are excited for reopening and eager to get back to traveling. Travel expert and agency owner Lorraine Simpson joined me today after her recent trip to Montreal to describe what the air travel experience is currently like. I asked her to walk us through the experience.
Inside the airport, it's spotlessly clean. Everything is touchless. So you put your phone underneath this little sensor, and it spits out your luggage tags, and on you go. Put your luggage on the cart yourself, and off it goes through. You don't have to touch anything, so it's really cool. And everything, the processes were all simple. There was nobody in the airport, but there were quite a lot of people through once you got past the control. So there's still quite a few people traveling. I went to Montreal and back, that's all. But safe as anything, you get on the plane, you get given a little bag with gloves and a mask and hand sanitizing and also some wipes. Well, that's all you get. No champagne, none of that, but small price to pay, right? So take your own food with you and take a mask. Make sure you have a mask because you will get turned away at the door if you do not bring your own mask. They will not provide it. You will get turned away.
I saw that they were also taking temperature checks, so they're obviously putting health and safety first and foremost.
Absolutely. They take your temperature before you go through, and a lot of places that we can travel to at the moment are also doing the same. So on arrival, you'll have your temperature checked. Some places are even asking you for an up-to-date test. So you have to go and have a COVID test, and then it has to be within 72 hours of you arriving wherever you happen to be arriving. And so safety first, it's very important. Some places are not allowing people from the USA in. So that's another thing, if people are worried about how many more cases there are down south at the moment, then there are places that are only allowing Canadians and some Europeans into their country, and that's to keep us all safe.
Now, there's also quarantine restrictions upon returning home if we leave Canada, but there are plenty of places that we can go within Canada. And of course, those of our viewers who are able to work from home at the moment may not be restricted by those travel restrictions.
Yes, and if you're not restricted and you do want to travel, well, then there are plenty of places that you can go outside of Canada. There's about 21 countries at the moment that you can go to. And from tomorrow, you can even go to places like the Maldives and the South Pacific and places like that. Now, there are places, of course, that you can go and they test you on arrival, but there are places that don't test you on arrival, but will ask you a questionnaire to make sure that you are safe while you're there. But if you can't go outside of the country, because of the 14-day quarantine on return, then we can go to Quebec, we can go to BC, we can go to Alberta. No restrictions, no quarantine in or out, so you can go there quite easily. I rented an RV. Okay, I'm a bit of a princess. I rented an RV and I loved it. We had a blast. It was brilliant. So even Air Canada right now are renting RVs. Okay, so there's lots and lots of opportunities. We've been to beaches. We went to Prince Edward County. We tasted wine. Of course, you've got Niagara, you've got Algonquin, and you've got beautiful places. Now, the busiest places are always the parking lots. Once you leave the parking lots, there's so much space. I mean, we live in a country where there is so much space per capita. So you go somewhere like Banff National Park, the busiest place will be the road to go in and the parking lot. Once you leave the parking lot, you might not see anything but a bear and a moose. So you're completely isolated, and social distance, not an issue.
Right. Well, thank you so much for connecting with me. As a travel lover myself, I feel like I could have this segment go on for the whole show, but unfortunately we are out of time. But I do hope that you will come back on and update us and keep us informed as this continues to change and evolve.
I would love to. My next flight's going to be on Air Canada to Greece, so I'm really looking forward to that, and I'll tell you all about it.
We look forward to following up with Lorraine. In the meantime, if you'd like to learn more about which countries you can currently travel to, as well as what restrictions, quarantine times, or special offers are in place, you can visit lorrainesimpson.com. A group of youth in Halton is hoping that you can help them raise funds for a local hospital foundation. Melissa Candelaria has those details.
The Youth Innovators of Milton is a group who've come together to do what they can to give back to their community. Shanza Khan is one of YIM's members and says their latest efforts is to raise money for the Milton Hospital Foundation.
We decided to do a fundraiser for this foundation because, as you may or may not know, during the COVID-19 pandemic, the hospital is in urgent need of different resources and equipment for the hospital and to provide ideal care for their patients.
Like many fundraisers since the pandemic began, YIM has launched theirs online.
We decided to do a fundraiser online because during the COVID-19 pandemic, it's really difficult for people to come in range. So we couldn't really do anything like in person, like a bake sale. So we wanted everything to be online. So it's also very accessible and easy for everyone to donate. The fundraiser, you can donate through our website, which is yimcanada.ca, which takes you to a link to the Canada Help page, and all the money will go directly to the hospital.
Vanessa Brigulio is the Major Gifts and Community Engagement Officer for the Milton Hospital Foundation. She says it means so much to them that the youth of this community sees the importance of the hospital.
We normally don't get a demographic like this, so it actually means a lot to see Milton's young philanthropists come and support the hospital. And especially this group, they have supported us in the past too, so it means a lot to have their continuous support. They've raised a lot for us. And the government, basically they handle all the operations of the hospital, but the foundation covers all the expenses of all equipment. So that ranges from things like a chair to an MRI machine. So it's everything in the hospital. It's kind of like they build the house and we have to furnish it. So it means a lot to us to see the community really support us during this time.
The Youth Innovators of Milton is hoping to raise $3,000 by the end of August. Reporting for Halton News, I'm Melissa Candelaria.
An unexpected hurdle halted the Burlington Legion's plans to transform their traditional fish and chip evening into a COVID-friendly pickup, but the members refused to be deterred and have proven their resilience.
Last month, the Royal Canadian Legion in Burlington was awarded the Mayor's Community Service Award for Not-for-Profit Group. It was well-deserved with the work they do in the Remembrance Day and other ceremonies throughout the year. Not to mention the $1.2 million they've raised in the last 10 years with poppy sales, all of which was donated to hospitals, hospices, and helping veterans down on their luck. Unfortunately, the Legion was not immune to the toll the pandemic took.
The Legion has been hit harder than most. We do not qualify for any support from any federal or provincial group. We were self-funding. So we have bills coming in, but we have nothing to generate the funds to pay those bills.
With plans to reinvent their traditional Friday fish and chip nights as a pickup service, 6 weeks ago, the fridge and freezer malfunctioned.
About $3,000 worth of food, which we would have used, was garbage. So what did we do? We put on a show. We put on a Vegas-like show with 4 people. 2 of them were veterans, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Ray Charles, and Ray Charles's backup singer, who was played by Jerry Defoe. It was incredibly well supported. That pulled in several $1,000s for us. We took that several $1,000s, and what we did is we bought frozen fish and chips. Yep. Then we cooked them in a way that we have never cooked before in the last 60 years.
Now, instead of a leisurely evening at the Legion, you can call in your order between 2 and 6 to 905-639-6060 or 905-639-6400 and pick it up between 5 and 6:30.
On a normal fish and chips night, plated, etc., in a leisurely environment, you would probably get, I think 100, 120, 125 people. Now, today, the first Friday, 185. The second Friday, which was just a few days ago, about 165.
For more information, go to burlingtonlegion.com. Reporting for Halton News, I'm Nikki Wesley.
Thanks for being with us here on Halton News. We do need to take a short break, but we'll be right back with part 2 of our education series this week, where Nikki Wesley will review the financial hurdles that students may face this year, and there's a local charitable organization that can help. Stay with us. Welcome back to Halton News. We're going to take a look now at a charitable organization that's helping students with financial hurdles today in the second part of our education series. Nikki Wesley reports.
In Little Portable, behind the Halton District School Board, you can find the office of the Halton Learning Foundation, a charitable organization helping to level the playing field for students with financial barriers to their education.
The way Halton Learning Foundation works is principals, school staff identify students in their school that need help to eliminate some financial barriers to their success. So that could be they need food at home, hygiene items, school supplies. So just need some help to be able to focus on school and not have to worry about some of those other things that a lot of us take for granted, is how we HLF functions in a normal year. And that really has been maintained even throughout the pandemic, the change being that kids were now at home versus in the building. What we did see though was an increase in the need. So a lot of that need was really around food. Parents were out of work and students and families really needed that support.
They helped to support those families, distributing gift cards for groceries through the school. In fact, they saw an 18% increase in students requiring support in comparison to last year.
1 in 10 students in Halton lives at or below the poverty line. Sometimes it's hard for people to appreciate that there's poverty in Halton. I think maybe now people have more of an appreciation because of what's happened with COVID and people being out of work, and what people may have thought was going to be a short-term concern has now become more long-term, and there is need, and that need has grown.
Moving toward the new school year, with students who may need assistance who haven't required it in the past, how will they be identified this fall?
Where you have continuity in a school, the school staff would already be aware of where there might be need with their students. Where there are new students, it'll be about getting to know them virtually or potentially, hopefully back in the school buildings themselves. But there still will be that ability to build that relationship and find out where there's need.
Like many charitable organizations, the pandemic forced HLF to pivot and fundraise virtually on haltonlearningfoundation.ca.
We're very grateful to all of the donors in the business community and individuals within Halton who have supported Halton Learning Foundation over the years, and certainly through the pandemic. But we're going to have to wait and see what the fall brings for school and what needs the students have and how we are able to help that group of students.
Reporting for Halton News, I'm Nikki Wesley.
A beautiful day out there today. The humidity levels have dropped and the temperature is much more comfortable for most of us. That decreased humidity will continue until at least Friday. Thursday comes with a 60% chance of rain showers, full sunshine, and right back up to that high of 31 on Friday. It will feel much like it did over the weekend and last week into Saturday as well. 33 degrees with a mix of sun and cloud, and then Sunday comes with a 60% chance of showers once again. And now we'll take a look at how some of Halton's top companies performed on the markets today. We'll be back with the Executive Director of the Burlington Food Bank after this short break. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us here on Halton News. I'm Jessica Kading. We have now Robin Bailey, the Executive Director of the Burlington Food Bank, with his daily update on how the organization is supporting the people of Burlington.
One of the things that we've done here at the Burlington Food Bank is make sure that we're trying to stay focused on the positive things that are happening, and some of that is great conversations with other agencies here in Burlington, but also going outside of that. We've had some really great conversations over the last few weeks with Kerr Street Mission in Oakville, as well as Fair Share Food Bank in Oakville, and along with Milton Salvation Army. Milton Salvation Army and Kerr Street Mission are both Feed Ontario partners of ours, and so we've been able to further conversations that we maybe haven't had in a long time. So we've enjoyed those conversations and looking at how we might be able to work together in serving not just here in Burlington, but for all of Halton together. So again, thank you all so much for your continued support. We're not through all of this yet, and if you're looking for something we could use right now, our most needed item I noticed this morning is peanut butter. So if you happen to be out and about, pick us up some peanut butter. And if you need our assistance, info@burlingtonfoodbank.ca or 905-637-2273.
Thanks for watching Halton News with us here tonight. We'll be back with another live edition tomorrow night at 5:30. In the meantime, you can find more content at yourtv.tv or follow us on social media. We're at YourTV Halton on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Halton News, I'm Jessica Kading, and I thank you for watching.